have a connection.
Are you going to have Michael Scotto on your show Monday? Perhaps? I can follow up on?
I'm definitely trying to have him on next week.
Yeah.
Sure.
He, of course, had a lot of things to say about the Kings today at Hoops Hype. One of the things he pointed out was Domantas Sabonis has been, according to Michael Scotto, frustrated with his role in the Kings' new offense. Sabonis has been disappointed with Sacramento's downward trajectory since reaching the playoffs and his usage at times under Coach Doug Christie, league sources told Hoops Hype. If this is the way it's all trending, where the Kings are going to de-emphasize Domas's role in the offense, then to me, it would really be beneficial to move off of him if you can get something significant. I'm not saying dump him, but my point is you're basically, if you're going to run the offense through other people, you're paying him for things that you're not allowing him to do for you anymore.
Yes, and that is the Sabonis conundrum, right? This team, wherever he goes next, if he stays in Sacramento, the team is probably going to reach its apex if he's doing less. But you decided to pay him like a number one, number two guy. And if you don't allow him to do that, you're overpaying him. And right now, he's overpaid because he's not doing that.
Yeah, and his usage rate is down. Usage rate, by the way, is really not a great stat for a guy like him because did you know usage rate doesn't take into account assists? And he has a lot of assists. But anyway,
less than he used to have.
He's getting the ball. He's getting fewer touches, but so is DeMar. So does Zach LaVine. So what's going on? Well, you brought in 2 point guards who are going to be handling the ball. That's what a true point guard does. So that's all understandable. But Domas, you can see that he's not entirely sure why his role isn't what it was. And that's all I'm saying. He can still help you, and he's a good player. But, yeah, you're paying him to do things that right now is like, yeah, we don't need you to do that anymore. So what's the point of that?
But, Whitey, he was the first thing he said. And I thought it sounded like a shot, honestly. I know him and Malik are fairly close. I was just watching something, and, on NBA TV, they'll have the little it's like when you go to a game, they do mini interviews and things, and he said Malik is the funniest guy on the team. So I'm not trying to allude to anything there.
Right.
But that the post-game presser or the end-of-season presser, he didn't even let the reporter finish the question. He said, point guard. We need a point guard. We need a point guard. Now, the problem is they got 2. So maybe that was the disconnect. Maybe it was, hey, if we go get Dennis Schroeder, and Scott Perry said we felt like we needed 2. I don't know, Whitey. Maybe they go get Dennis Schroeder, and then you're running more Domas-centric things when it's not Dennis Schroeder time. Maybe that was the miss, and you got to be careful what you wish for. It reminds me of, as we're coming up on the holidays, my dad sometimes would buy me stuff that I didn't necessarily ask for, right? And I'm not trying to be, like a snotty-nosed kid or whatever.
Yeah, that's a flex from Al.
No, I'm just saying.
My dad bought me stuff I didn't even want.
But he would buy me shoes that I don't like the shoes, right? But now I have the shoes, and thank you for getting me shoes. But you could have asked me what shoes I wanted, right?
Right.
So Domas, he says he wants a point guard, and Scott Perry says, how about I get you 2? And he says, well, I didn't ask for 2.
Maybe.
I didn't ask for 2. I still want to do some point guard stuff, but now there's no time for him to do point guard stuff.
Right.
But then they got 2 point guards.
It's impossible to know because we don't actually know for sure how he feels, right? If we're being honest. Yeah, he's been disappointed with the downward trajectory. Well, of course he has. Let's hope so. And his usage at times under Doug Christie, according to league sources. And then you have people that say, well, he's always complaining. Maybe, but let's not leap to conclusions. I know that's what we do here.
I mean, the conclusions, Whitey. The conclusions, going back to Mike Brown, they've leaped. They've already leaped. We were just talking about it.
Yeah.
He is the I think a lot of people believe he is. I mean, Matt George said no. He is one of the reasons. He's the face of it.
Yeah.
Now, I've never talked to Domantas Sabonis and asked him, are you part of the reason Mike Brown is no longer here? So I'm not going to speak to stuff that I did not.
It's fair to say that is widely believed to be the case.
That is there you go, Whitey. You sounded like a tweet from an aggregator. There is a belief growing.
A widely held belief that he was one of the reasons Mike Brown's no longer the coach.
That is perfect.
Yeah.
There is a feeling around league circles.
Yeah. So now you have this, and it's easy to say, sounds like maybe now he's unhappy with this situation. And we don't know that for a fact. But it's just clear based on the moves they made that, yeah, his usage rate is going to go down. The interesting thing to me is his role in the half court. When this offense is really popping, sometimes it's like 5 out, draw and kick, draw and kick. And, Domas is, when they built the offense around him, the DHO stuff, and he would kind of read where the opposing center was going, and then he could make the decisions, and they're kind of trending away from that. Mike Brown built the offense on that, and they're going another way now. So I could see how that would be difficult for him, but he should have seen it coming.
He didn't like it, clearly, or he didn't like something. Mm-hmm. Maybe he thought I can, whatever allegedly, widely believed, whatever was the widely believed.
You know what he didn't like about Mike Brown?
Tell me,
I would
please.
bet you money.
Please.
You had games where they would win. Mike Brown, you were probably in there. Mike Brown would say, people go, oh, Domas is great. And he'd say, well, yeah, that's what he's paid to do. Him and Fox, that's what they're supposed to do. I remember him saying that. And then there was another game
though.
They lost. What was the game where they didn't box out at the end last year, and Domas missed on box out, and the other team got the offensive rebound and put back on a missed free throw. And Mike Brown called him out on that. He's got to be better than that. I don't think Domas appreciated that, being called out to that degree by his coach. Apparently, De'Aaron Fox is like, yes, I want that. Yeah. I don't think that Domas appreciated it.
And that is not to allude to Domas not wanting to take accountability, because some people will run there. It might just speak to we can be accountable to each other in the locker room.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe it doesn't need to be said in the post-game presser. The whole thing is confusing because, like you said, Whitey, I mean, those were the days where the Kevin O'Connors were having a field day on Domantas Sabonis being overrated because his numbers were insane. But, yeah, there was something missing with him and Mike Brown, allegedly. And now I think maybe he felt like, well, if I get Doug in there, Doug knows me. We're going to continue to do the same thing. But you never know how it's going to look. He didn't know that, well, when Doug is going to be there along with Zach LaVine and along with DeMar DeRozan and 2 point guards for the price of one.
Domantas Sabonis was really great in this offense. First year of the Beam team when he had Kevin Huerter knocking down threes and he had Harrison Barnes knocking down threes. Look it up because a lot of people think Harrison Barnes never made a basket as a King.
Yeah.
He did. He was pretty good, actually. And you also had Keegan setting a rookie record for threes. So that gave him options, and he got assists on all of those.
Yep.
The next year, the shooting went down and hasn't come back up to that level. And so Domas has not been as effective when he doesn't have guys that he can, those spray threes when guys are not making those threes. When the team doesn't shoot as well, he is not as effective.
Well, and the other thing is, too, even if they weren't, even without the other point guards, it's the other guys. I know Zach LaVine can shoot the 3 ball. Typically, he's been struggling. But even if he had the ball, Domas, based on, now I know Keegan Murray's back, but there's a bunch of guys out there. What am I doing with this? Right? Precious Achiuwa on the wing. What am I going to do with this? Drew Eubanks. What am I going to do with this? So even the guys that they brought in, it didn't make a ton of sense. I know Russell Westbrook has been shooting the 3 ball very well. But, yeah, adding in the point guards. And I said this before, Whitey. We're sitting here. We spent so much time on these airwaves. We need a point guard. We need a point guard. And I know the Timberwolves are not a good example, but these other teams, you got Denny Avdia, who's running around. He's my guy.
Yeah, I know that.
6'7", he's handling point guard duties, and they still got Drew Holiday, right? And you got Dame coming back. All these other teams are kind of moving towards a point guard by committee, and maybe the committee wasn't right for the Kings, but the Kings are saying, no, we need a horde point guards so we can get this done when they have one of the most passer-friendly, passer-intelligent centers in the game. It didn't make sense.
Last year, I thought Malik did a better job as a point guard than the team gave him credit for. And also, a lot of times last year down the stretch, basically, DeMar ran point. And he did a good job.
Yeah. We talked to Malik about that, and I said, hey, Malik, me and you, man.
Yeah.
We've had some conversation. And I said, in that post-game presser, right, or end-of-season presser, he said, I feel more comfortable at the 2. And a lot of people ran with that saying, oh, he doesn't want to be a point guard. He doesn't want this. He doesn't want that. What I asked Malik on Media Day, I said, when I heard that, I thought, I feel more comfortable at the 2. That doesn't mean I can't handle point guard duties. And he said, thank you. That is exactly what I meant. everybody else, along with Scott Perry, they all took it as if Malik can't ever. No, don't bring. No, Malik, don't bring the ball up. And they brought
Pass
in
it to a guard.
No, hey Malik, no, let go of the ball. Only pass half court. And then they bring in 2 point guards, and now the whole thing is clunky. And you got 2 guys, Whitey, $33 million coming off the bench between Malik Monk and a shooter. I know Malik's been closing a little bit, but and you got $49 million on the bench when Zach LaVine doesn't close, but it doesn't make sense, Whitey.
One of my thoughts was, okay, they want a point guard because they're still trying to make DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine work. And they never worked together. They respect each other. They didn't work together except for a brief period in Chicago when what? And I think DeMar DeRozan even told me this once when I asked him about this. Like, well, we had Lonzo Ball.
Yeah.
So, okay,
Yes.
They think if they get a point guard, then that's going to work. It didn't work, and that wasn't why it worked before.
No, and it was a small sample size of it working. And then you gotta hear everybody say, no, they need a point guard. Now they got 2 point guards now, Whitey. But now they still need a point guard that's like Lonzo Ball.
Right.
It's ridiculous.
Right.
Maybe they're just not a good match.
What do you think of this from Gracie Approved? Could it be Domas is unhappy because we're losing, or we're losing because he's unhappy, Alan? Which is it?
Well,
I think he's unhappy because they're losing.
yeah, well, he's going to be unhappy.
They won the last 2 games. I assume he wasn't happy then, and they still won.
What if they go on a 5-game winning streak without Domas?
Right.
Would you be happy? Why? Do I know if I was on the bench and the team won, we'd be Owls on 3. I got my hand up there. What? Owls, man. Owls. If I wasn't playing and my replacement went 3 for 4.
No, not you.
Owls
Really?
on 3. 1, 2, 3. Owls, man. Let's get out of here. I'm not even playing. And we won. It's not the same.
Yeah, but they have so much invested in him, they have to get something significant for him. I am not in any way suggesting you got to get rid of that guy. No, you got to get whatever it is. So I still think he's going to end up going to the Warriors, and Kuminga's coming here.
Wow.
I still think that's happening.
Wow.
I don't want it to happen, and I don't think it's a good idea, but book it.
I think you're on to something, and I have reason to believe that you.
Yeah, Alan saw somebody told me. Yeah.
Look, I'm just saying.
Yeah, it's
birds
not that hard
are
to
chirping.
figure out. Yeah.
What are you talking about? What do you mean it's not that hard to figure out?
It's just it's pretty obvious that things have been trending that way. That's all. That's all I'm saying.
The
that there's
money?
interest on both sides.
Yeah. I mean, he is exactly what's the more so the type of center that Steph has had in the past with the Bogut's and smart passers, guys like that. Again, would he be worth the $40 million? No, but I don't think Jimmy's worth that, and they pay Jimmy $60 a year, so you got to do what you got to do.
Mm-hmm. My understanding is that the Warriors now are thinking, boy, we got to play Quentin Post more. He's playing well.
He is.
Lean on him more.
He is. And look, somebody said, Alan, do you think Maxime can be Quentin Post? I said, look, man, let's not do that. The hope is that, no disrespect to Quentin Post, but I hope Quentin Post evolves in his game and improves. And the hope is that Maxime is better than Quentin Post. Maybe they meant this season to contribute right now, but I said, come on, man. We can't do that. We got to shoot for the stars and you land amongst the moon, Whitey. Or I think I said that backwards.
I knew where you were going. I know that his numbers haven't been great on every game, but I think Maxime is a little bit – he's certainly not behind schedule. He's either on schedule or maybe a little bit ahead of schedule.
Yeah, and he's getting forced into the physicality of the game, which I think is probably exactly what Scott Perry and Doug Christie wanted. That's probably where the biggest gap was. I know offensively it hasn't been pretty, but he really hasn't had time to focus on his offensive skill set, and I would like to see him shoot the 3-ball better, but he's drinking from the water hose right now, Whitey, and at least he's getting welcome to the show every single game.
Yeah. Now, if you had a chance to trade Domas to the Warriors and get something back where you'd like it, would you have any trepidation about that? Would you be reluctant because it's the Warriors, we're going to see him 3 or 4 times every year, he's right down the road?
I think your timeline, that's why you're going and getting the 20. He is 23 now, not 22. You're getting a 23-year-old and Jonathan Kuminga. You're changing your timeline. The Warriors got about 2-3 years left, and with Steph, maybe a little bit more than that. But if you take away Kuminga, they're still going to have to find something. Maybe they got one more trick up their sleeve, but the larger point is that the timelines are different, and you ain't worried about Pajemski or Moody.
That's your guy, right? Pajemski's
No,
your guy.
he's not my. No, he's definitely not my guy. I would have been.
Buddy's your guy?
No, I would have been Shohei. That sounds more ridiculous. I was gonna say than me going to the NFL, but I guess he's in the NBA. So
Yeah. The Keon news more significant than the Levine news. We're back with that next on Sactown Sports.
Sacramento weather is brought to you by Future Ford.
I'm Dirk